Good morning, good morning. I'm grateful you've come, and I'm a little amused that you have, because as you know, this is a very strange work. You could have been anywhere this morning, at the beach, at the market, tinkering with something that promises to save you 10 minutes while costing you an hour. And yet, here we are, taking our seats to speak about something the world, for the most part, walks by without a glance. I wonder if it isn't a proving ground or a testing ground, not in a harsh way, but in the gentle way a seed tests the soil around it. Do we really want God, or do we want results? Do we want the presence itself, or do we want the blessings without the sun? And I say that not to scold, oh, not at all, but to set us at the right altitude from the very beginning, because if this hour is only about adding another excellent idea to the shelf, well, we already have more ideas than shelves. Let's be very clear about what we are doing. This is not a talk about ideas of God. It is an invitation into the actual experience of God contact, not theories, not even the best of them, not polishing the lens of belief to get a brighter reflection. We are here to feel for, to touch, to be touched by, the living presence that is closer than hands and feet, closer than breathing. And I know that sounds grand and perhaps a little unnerving. I know it can make a person glance at the exit or at their watch. Good. A little disorientation is honest. We are leaving familiar country where thought sits like a mayor at the center of town, passing ordinances about everything, including God. And we are strolling up toward high ground where thought cannot legislate. Now, this is an inquiry, not a doctrine. I am not here to hand you propositions and ask you to nod your heads in unison. I'm wondering, with you, aloud, if there is a way to live so simply that the question of how to fix life falls away, because life is meeting us from within with its own answer. Is it possible that what we have called prayer has too often been thinking about God? Organizing thoughts, arranging thoughts, pleading thoughts, and we have mistaken that noise for communion. Is it possible that the difference between thinking about God and contacting God is the difference between reading about warmth and stepping into the sun? The words, I love you, are not love. The words, God is, are not God. There is a click, a felt something, not a something we own. Oh no, not at all. But as something that dissolves the need to keep saying, God, 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 because the room is already full and the heart is already resting. Immediately, let me reassure you, this is not anti-intellect. The mind has a place. It reads the map, it fixes the clock, it balances the books, it reminds us to take the roast out of the oven, use it. We would be foolish not to. This is not anti-religion. Wherever a saint or sage or seer has spoken truly, they have pointed here, sometimes in different language, but to the same summit, and it is certainly not anti-life. Do not for a moment suppose that what we do here is to withdraw from living, to let the garden go to weeds, to abandon the office or the kitchen or the children in favor of a faraway spirituality. Oh, not at all, not at all. This work is a radical reordering of reliance. It places the weight of trust not on the engineering of effects, not on multiplying formulas or pushing buttons on heaven's vending machine, but on realizing God. Seek me only, and the rest, as we shall see, takes its rightful place. You will hear me speak about a sea of thought. By that I mean all that can be seen and heard and tasted and touched and smelled and judged and compared. The entire commotion that keeps the surface of consciousness in motion. Beautiful waves sometimes, terrible waves sometimes, religious waves, political waves, psychological waves, and you know how it goes. We have been told that if we could only arrange those waves correctly, if we could only think the right thought long enough and hard enough, we could surf our way to God. But no, the very premise is mistaken. One does not arrive at the mountaintop by grading the sea. There is a place above the sea of thought. And I am not using above as if God were up and we were down. I am speaking of an inner altitude, a quiet where the roar is underneath and the sky is open. Our purpose is not to debate the topology. Our purpose is to rise. I understand you may be thinking, rise? How? Give me steps, give me guarantees. Not yet. We are not building a ladder of thoughts to climb on. We are cultivating a willingness to let something else govern. If, before we begin, you will allow me one small humor. Should the garbage truck come along outside and make its usual proclamation of metal and might, let us be grateful. It will remind us that the world knows how to make noise. We are here to discover how to be still, not in our furniture only, but in our center. And the mind, dear friend, will insist that it must accompany us and commentate the entire ascent. Bless it, but do not follow it. We will give it rest. I can almost hear someone say, but if I stop thinking my prayers, will God know what I need? Oh, you need a sense of humor with this work. Does the sun need to be told to be warm? Does it require that we write requests in the sky in order to tan our skin? Bring yourself into the sunshine, and because the sun is what it is, warmth and light and color are present. Bring yourself into the presence, not the thought of it, not the outline of it, but the awareness of it. And because God is what God is, the qualities of God appear naturally in form, in ways that your cleverness could not have engineered. We will talk more of this, much more. But for today, let us accept that the enterprise here is not improved belief. It is contact. So allow the strangeness. Call it holy, if you like. It is the sign that we are moving from the fairground of mental attractions to a higher, purer air. We will not be harsh with ourselves. We will not be heroes or martyrs. We will be simple. Each time we find ourselves arranging our thoughts in the likeness of prayer, let us remember there is a place above this sea, and before we say another word about God, we will pause, we will listen, we will wait until there is, however slight, a stirring, a softening, a sense that something besides me is present. That is the beginning. That is why we are here. Not to accumulate data about the divine, but to be available to the divine as the only life we have. And if in these first minutes you feel both hungry and mildly suspicious, hungry because the promise is so clean, suspicious because it seems too simple, that is all right. Let the promise stand and let the suspicion sit in the back row. We are going to walk together. We are going to rise not by thinking higher thoughts, but by yielding to a higher awareness already within us. And as we proceed, the oddness will become familiarity, the strangeness will become home, because what is home but the place where presence is felt, and nothing needs to be added to make it complete. Now let us be plain about the material we live in every day and often mistake for life itself. When I say thought, I am not speaking only of the quick little sentences that run through the head when we're brushing our teeth. I am speaking of the whole sea, the entire range of what can be seen, heard, tasted, touched, and smelled, and then all we do with it, the labeling, the comparing, the remembering, the anticipating, the calendar with its appointments, the fears that rise at 3 in the morning like inspectors, the hopes that jump ahead 2 weeks and make plans for our peace, the opinions about politics, the opinions about art, the opinions about how our neighbor ought to cut their hedge, and yes, the religious opinions, the metaphysical opinions, the polished truths we have copied into notebooks and underlined in red. All of that is thought. It is the sea. Now, do not take that as an insult to intelligence. Oh, not at all, not at all. If we were traveling to Chicago, thought had better remember the train times. If we are making soup, thought had better recognize salt from sugar. Bump your knee and the body's nerves will send messages. Listen to them. But make this distinction and it will save you years. The most exquisite thought about God is still thought. The most reverent sentence is still a wave. One wave may be storm, another may be glassy and bright. One may reflect the moon, another may toss us about. They are all surface. We are not here to craft prettier waves. We are here to discover sky. I know the mind objects. It says, but I have collected such fine waves, affirmations, truths, faith statements. Surely if I repeat them, I will arrive. Let us inquire together. If thought could bring God, would any sincere person ever fail? If truth phrases were enough, would anyone who has memorized 100 pages remain afraid? If arranging noble words in a row could open the kingdom, would a parrot trained to say, God is love, be illumined? If tapes replaying wisdom could do it, would not the tape recorder be a saint? And you know the answer. We can paste scripture above the sink and still wash our dishes in worry. We can declare, all that the Father hath is mine, and then count the coins twice just to be sure. Why? Because thought, however religious, is still of the sea. This is where our strategy usually goes sideways. We imagine that the problem is the quality of our sentences, not the reliance on sentence-making itself. So we improve the wording, we put italics on our prayers, we lengthen the time, we quicken the pace. We try whispering, we try shouting, we choose a more sacred tone. We place our hands just so. My dear friend, all of this is rearranging the furniture in a boat that is still bobbing on the same water. It looks different for a moment, and then the swell comes and the stomach unsettles again. The issue is not the cushion. The issue is the sea. Then what are we to do? The mind asks. Abandon thinking altogether? No. The mind is a useful servant and will continue to serve us in its realm. But it cannot be asked to deliver God. It cannot. Thought can point. Thought can say, be still. Thought can say, turn within. Thought can quote a master, seek me only. Thought is the finger, it is not the moon. Until there is an actual change of state, an actual awareness, a click, we are living in concepts about God. They may be accurate concepts, they may be poetically beautiful, they may be orthodox or heterodox, they may win us praise in a study group. But without the click, there is no rest. Without the click, the heart still asks, will it work? Will it hold? With the click, the question ceases, not because an argument overpowered it, but because presence is. Have you noticed how, even in our most devout moments, the mind likes to keep accounts? It says, I have done my affirmations, I have tithed, I have read my pages, I have sat 15 minutes this morning and last night. Surely God will notice. Who are we kidding? Who is this little accountant, and to whom is it reporting? This is not to scold. It is to make visible the assumption hidden beneath, that God is a result of our performance, that the infinite is waiting to be impressed. Get thee behind me. The sun does not need to be persuaded to be bright. There is no clerical office in heaven stamping our prayer cards paid in full. There is simply God being God, and our task, if we may call it that, is to rise above the sea of thought where the noise of bargaining and promising is, and let God be God. You will ask, but isn't a fine statement of truth helpful? Certainly, as a reminder, a good sentence can be a hand on the shoulder that turns us from the picture to the presence. Use it that way. Use it to stop the merry-go-round. Use it to interrupt the rehearsal, but do not mistake the hand for the home. The sentence does not make God present. The sentence alerts us to the fact that our attention has married a storm. And with that alert, we can do the one thing needful, which is not to engineer a new thought, but to yield upward, to let the inner altitude reveal itself. Above the sea of thought is a quiet in which you discover you are not the captain of a bobbing ship. You are the sky itself untroubled, and there, in that sky, there is an awareness of presence that is not producible, by thinking any more than a mirror can produce a face. It reflects. It does not create. Let me say this gently, because it can sound harsh to the mind that has worked so faithfully. Even the word God, when it is only a word, is a veil. Even the word love, when it is only a word, is a veil. They are fine veils, translucent, helpful as coverings while we walk from the street into the sanctuary. But when we arrive at the altar within, the veil must be lifted, and what lifts it is not another word, but a giving way. That is the rise. That is the inner movement we will speak of again. Thinking won't make this so. We do not climb to God by stacking sentences as if they were ladders. We become quiet enough to be carried. Let us, then, be kind with ourselves. When we catch the old habit returning, smile. You'll need a sense of humor. You will find yourself arranging spiritual words like flowers and hoping the perfume will appear. Notice it, bless it, and then remember, there is a place above the sea. Close the book if you must. Lay down the pen. Set aside the opinion, even the beautiful opinion, and let an inch of silence be given a chance. Do not try to engineer silence. It cannot be engineered. Merely stop putting new waves into motion and wait. Even for 10 seconds, even for 3, you will find sooner or later, and it is sooner than you think, that something begins to stir. That is not a thought, not an image you have made. It is not yours. It is not mine. It is. And when it is felt, even slightly, that realized presence becomes the prayer, and that prayer, without sentences, does the work that sentences cannot. So we agree on this foundation. Thought, however cultured, however religious, however true in its phrasing, cannot be the bridge to God. It is the sea we must rise above. We will still use the mind where it serves, but we will not ask it to do what only the presence can do. And with that, we are ready to speak of the difference that changes everything. Thinking about God and contacting God. Let us be very simple now and look at this difference with clear eyes. We can talk about God all day and never meet Him. Never feel that presence once. We can arrange fine phrases, read noble passages, sit in rooms adorned with sacred symbols, and go away with nothing more than a polished idea. Or, without a single eloquent sentence, we can become quiet enough to sense a stirring, a hush that is not of our making, a warmth that does not come from the radiator or the weather, and we know, without an argument, God is here. Those are 2 modes. The first is thinking about God. The second is contacting God. And I tell you plainly, the second changes everything. Do not misunderstand me. We are not downgrading the mind. The mind is a good secretary. It files, it dates, it recalls where we put our keys. It draws up a recipe and remembers who is allergic to what. Use it, it serves. But it is not the bridegroom. It cannot give us the wedding wine. When we ask the mind to prove God's presence, it will offer us a debate, and a debate, however brilliant, cannot bring peace. It can bring victory for a moment, but then a new counter-argument arrives from the other side of the table, and the mind, so fair, so balanced, says, well, yes, perhaps there is something to that point too. Have you noticed? The same mind that composes our finest affirmations crafts, with equal skill, the questions that unravel them. Today we are sure. Tomorrow a new fact arrives in the mail, and we are less sure. Today we declare, God is my life. By evening a pain speaks loudly, and the mind, ever the attorney, clears its throat and inquires, but is he? There is no final verdict in that courtroom. There is only a postponement until further evidence, and then another postponement, and another. So when I say contact, I am not speaking of a thought held fiercely, nor a mood we work up like froth on a wave. Contact is a felt awareness, quiet, sometimes so quiet we could miss it if we look for fireworks. It is a sense of presence that does not rise and fall with weather or wages, that does not depend on the voice on the other end of the telephone saying what we hoped they would say. Contact is a click. It is as if a circuit closes, and though the world outside the window looks precisely the same, something within says, enough, be still. You don't make that by deciding. You discover it by yielding, and because it is not made, it does not need your constant mental policing to hold it together. It holds you. Then you are telling me to stop believing? The mind protests. Oh, not at all, not at all. Beliefs are not villains. A sound belief can keep us from walking off a cliff. What I am saying is that God contact is not an improved belief. It is the felt presence that makes belief unnecessary. Imagine you are in a dark room and you believe there is a chair. You might edge along the wall and repeat, there is a chair, there is a chair, and in your belief you will gain some comfort, perhaps even enough to sit slowly on what you hope is there. But when the light is on, you do not chant chair, you sit. Once the presence is felt, the chanting ceases, not because belief has been condemned, but because it has been fulfilled. The sun rose. You don't petition the east any longer. This is why mental persuasion fails us at the crucial hour. We have tried to talk ourselves into peace, and sometimes, for a minute, it seems to take. Then the wave rises, the tide turns, and back we are at the blackboard, redrawing conclusions, sharpening the chalk. The mind loves this work. It feels important in the doing of it. But peace does not live on that board. Peace lives in realization. The mind can bring us to the door. It cannot walk us through. The most it can say, and it is sometimes enough, is, turn now, be still. And then, let there be a pause in which something other than mind is allowed to be God. Please let me offer reassurance, because I know how easy it is to go to an extreme. This does not mean we stop thinking in daily affairs. It means we stop using thought as our savior. It does not mean we become careless, indifferent, or mystical drifters. Oh, not at all. Pay your bills on time. Keep your appointments. Lock your door if you live where doors like to be locked. The presence does not cancel common sense. It breathes through it and often improves it. But no longer will we attempt to engineer the infinite by repeating a sentence as if God were a vending machine, and the correct coin a phrase inserted with the proper solemnity. Seek me only, not seek me and an outcome I have outlined. Seek me only. The outcome will arrange itself according to a wisdom that we, in our finest hours, could not have invented. Now, the practical promise, and this is why you and I are willing to unlearn an old habit. When contact is made, the fear of outcomes begins to dissolve because the source is felt, not merely believed. Notice the words, begins to dissolve. I am not asking you to pretend that a lifetime of anxious rehearsals disappears in a single minute. Die daily. Let it dissolve as it will. But you will find, astonishingly soon, that where yesterday you would have set out to fix, today you can wait. Where yesterday you would have begged, today you can listen. Where yesterday a certain name in your inbox would have tied your stomach in a knot, today it lands and you know to breathe once, twice, and remember, above the sea of thought, the sky is not concerned with the weather. And look how practical this is. The phone rings and a voice announces a delay, a loss, a change. Old habit leaps to its feet with 100 remedies, 3 of them contradictory, all of them urgent. Smile at it, let it dance. Then turn within, not to say, fix this, but to feel after the presence. Don't outline, don't bargain. Listen, if the click comes, and it will, perhaps softly, perhaps like the faintest shift of air in a room, you will discover that the rush to manage subsides. It is not passivity, it is a different order of activity. You will still do what needs to be done. You will answer the email. You will call the person who must be called. You will drive to the place you must be. But the doing will ride a quiet current instead of a panic. The difference is not visible to the eye, but to the heart. It is the difference between night and dawn. Someone will say, but how do I know I have contacted God and not just calmed myself? You need a sense of humor with that question, because even the attempt to measure the infinite is a little comic. Yet there is an answer. Self-calm is a mood and is easily jostled. God contact is assurance and abides. You can become calm by lighting a candle, sipping tea, playing a beautiful song. Fine. Do it. But see how quickly the calm is chased away when someone knocks loudly or news arrives from far places. Assurance remains. It may not be ecstatic. It does not need to be. It is often very modest in its appearance, so modest that if you are looking for a vision, you will miss it. It is simply this: God is on the field, and from that instant we are under orders, not from circumstances, not from fear, but from presence. Do not look for drama then. Look for obedience. When the awareness comes, even in a whisper, become very simple. Do the next thing and do it in the light of that assurance. You will discover that the same act done with contact and done without contact are two different lives. Without contact, every step proves us to ourselves. With contact, every step expresses that which is. Without contact, our sentences work like cheerleaders, urging a tired team. With contact, the game is already won, and we are simply playing it out for the joy of demonstration. And this is the beautiful secret, hidden in plain sight. The presence does the convincing. You will not need to keep reminding yourself that God is, any more than you need to keep reminding yourself there is air once you have started breathing it. Oh, you will find the old tongue starting up. But what if? And you will smile and say, thank you, not now. And in that very smile you will sense again the gentle pressure of something that is not your cleverness. That is it. That is the difference that changes everything. We can think about God and remain at the mercy of tides, or we can contact God and discover that the ocean is within the sky, and we are of the sky. Let us be grateful for every fine sentence that has served to bring us to this threshold, and then let us leave the threshold for the room itself. We will still honor truth words as doorways. We will not mistake them for the guest. The guest is here, and when he is here, belief bows, thought bows, words bow, and life, ordinary, unspectacular life, becomes the altar upon which God proves himself, not as an idea to be defended, but as presence to be realized. Seek me only. Rest. Listen. The rest will arrange itself. Now, the question that sits naturally in the room is this: how, then, do we rise? If thinking about God will not deliver God, if belief bows when presence appears, what is the movement that takes us from the shore into the altitude? And we must be very careful here, because the mind, hearing movement, immediately asks for a method it can manage. 7 steps, 3 affirmations, a timer on the table, and an A+ at the end if we did it right. Oh, not at all, not at all. The rise above the sea of thought is not a mental trick. It is not an exercise of personal willpower. It is a shift of attention, a yielding of reliance. It is ceasing to live by the management of mind and beginning to live by listening in the presence. Let us put it simply: when a thought presents itself, pleasant or unpleasant, sacred or profane, practical or poetic, do not fight it, do not analyze it, and do not take up residence in it. That is all. Let it pass if it will. Let it linger if it must. But do not build a house in it. The sea may continue its motion. We are not responsible for stilling the Atlantic. We are responsible for not climbing into every wave with our furniture. The rise is not produced by pushing the water down with our hands. It happens as we stop participating in the swell as if it were our life. Then, without struggle, attention lifts, and we find ourselves in a quiet above it. Now, immediately, I must say what it is not, because the mind, so earnest, so ready to misunderstand for our own good, will try to help with the wrong kind of help. Rising above thought is not blankness. It is not spacing out. It is not hypnosis, self or otherwise. It is not the suppression of mind, as if we were to sit on the head of a child and tell it to be silent forever. And it is surely not a feat of muscular spirituality in which we grit our teeth and hold to God with a grim jaw. No, no, you cannot hold your breath to find the air. You relax into air that has been here all along. In the very same way, you relax the demand to solve, to fix, to outline, and the surface that was so agitated of itself begins to settle. You did not push it down, you simply stopped whipping it up. How? The mind says. Give me at least one thing to do. And it is fair to give the mind a direction, so long as we do not convert direction into another sea wave. Use a phrase not as an affirmation, not as a spell, but as a pointing of the ear. Father, reveal thyself. Or, if that old language makes your heart bow in a remembered way, speak, Lord, thy servant heareth, not to inform God, not to arouse God, but to turn from the picture to the presence, to invite our own attention to listen instead of lecture. Hold it as you would hold a feather, not a brick. Whisper it inwardly as one would lift a curtain to see if dawn has begun. And then wait, not in tension, but in that relaxed not knowing that is faith without drama. Do not imagine that while you do this, the world will courteously go quiet. Oh, it will be itself. The garbage truck will come, and it will come directly beneath your window, just as you have decided to be holy. The telephone will ring. The child will ask for toast with the earnest urgency of a general on a battlefield. The schedule will crowd. Beautiful. Let it all be as it is. The rise does not require you to command the neighborhood. Learn to be inwardly above. You can butter toast and listen. You can walk to the train and listen. You can sign your name and listen. The noise that once drowned you becomes, oddly, a reminder. Ah, yes, the sea moves, and yet here I am in sky. You will discover a new kind of discernment operating almost immediately. The old habit was, a disturbance appears, we leap to mind, and mind, heroic, offers 100 strategies by the half-minute. The new habit will be, a disturbance appears, we pause, we turn. We do not pray, fix this. We do not imagine clever outcomes. We simply give attention to presence with our little phrase, speak, Lord, until there is, however faint, a stirring. Then we move. The same email may be sent. The same call may be made. But the mover is different. The doer is no longer anxiety proving itself. It is assurance expressing itself. The outer act may be identical. The inner life has changed mountains. Someone says, but when I try to rise, the thoughts get louder. Naturally, a sea that has been flattered for years by your attention will splash grandly when you step onto the shore. Smile at it. You need a sense of humor. Bless the mind for its vigor. We are not at war with it. We are simply changing governments. When it comes to you with its bulletins, have you noticed the wind? Have you calculated the swell? Shouldn't you be steering north, northwest? You answer kindly, thank you, not now, and you turn again. Each time you turn, you are teaching attention a new home. Each time you do not take residence in the tail, you are loosening old loyalties. Do it 100 times in 10 minutes if you must. That is not failure, that is practice. There is a grace in this that will surprise you. We imagine that the sea will settle when at last we have conquered it. But it often settles when it is ignored. Not disrespected, ignored, meaning not fed with our importance. When we stop seeking salvation by arranging the waves continue to be waves, and we stop being seasick. Then, interestingly enough, the decisions that looked so tangled begin to sort themselves from within. Guidance arrives without the sweat of outlining. a word to say in a meeting, a sense to wait a day, an impulse to call a friend we had not considered. We are not making lists for God, asking Him to initial the bottom. We are listening under orders from the presence that has taken the field. Let me assure you again, this is not passivity. Oh, not at all, not at all. It is the end of frantic activity born of fear, and the beginning of simple obedience born of assurance. You will do what you must do. Houses still need roofs. Children still need shoes. Accounts still need reconciling. But you will not live in those acts as if they were your salvation. You will live above them, and they will be done through you with a rightness that you could not have manufactured on your best day of mental gymnastics. If the mind whispers that this will make you sloppy, test it. One day of listening will accomplish more and miss less than a week of scurrying. I would like you to have something so practical that you can carry it into an afternoon. Choose 3 moments that frequently capture you. Perhaps the red light, the opening of the inbox, the first glance at the calendar. Make them bells. At each bell, do not promise God achievement. Simply turn. Father, reveal thyself. Or speak, Lord. 2 breaths. No bargaining, no outlining. Just the ear turned. If there is a stirring, even slight, proceed from there. If there is not, do the next thing quietly, and know that you have refused to crown the sea as your ruler. You have already risen because you refuse to live in the wave. And please do not grade yourself. Some days the click is there before you have finished the first syllable of speak. Some days you will feel as if you are talking to a closed door. Thank you, not now. We are not chasing sensations. We are cultivating fidelity. Die daily to the belief that your cleverness must carry the day, and each day you will notice a little more that something else is already carrying it. That is the inner movement. That is the method that is not a method. Not mental magic, not blankness, not suppression. Simply the re-education of reliance from managing by mind to listening in the presence. And in this way, without a drum roll, life begins to take on a different sound. The noises remain, the schedules still do their dance. The responsibilities are honored, but the center is quiet, and from that quiet a wisdom flows that is not borrowed. Then, because the presence is realized, prayer itself will show its new face, and we will no longer be petitioners at a window, but dwellers in a house where the giver is the gift. Seek me only, listen, rise. The rest will know where to go. Let us look straight at prayer now, because if our practice of turning is to be more than a soothing hobby, prayer must be born again. Seek me only. You have heard those words all morning echoing under the others, and now I wish to make them the center without apology. Never pray for anything at all except a deeper awareness of God's presence. Never. Not for health. Not for supply. Not for protection. Not for success. Oh, we appreciate these names. They have their place in language and in daily living. But if we go to God with a shopping list, we have already confessed that the list is our Lord. We have already crowned the picture, and that, my friends, keeps us in the sea. Do you see the humor in the old way? I catch myself at it and have to laugh to keep from being solemn about my solemnity. Am I hoping to influence God? Me, advise the infinite. Am I planning to inform omniscience of a fact that slipped his notice? Father, perhaps you haven't checked the ledger this week. Or, if you will only make Mrs. Brown less difficult, I promise to be more spiritual. You need a sense of humor with that, because it is the mind, with perfect sincerity, trying to be more clever than the sun. And in the moment we see it, a gentle "get thee behind me" suffices, not as an insult to mind, but as a loving demotion. The mind may keep the books. It must not run the temple. Here is the picture that has helped me, and perhaps it will become your picture too. You cannot ask the sun to shine. The sun is shining. You cannot ask the sun for warmth or for a tan or for a tomato to ripen on the vine. You cannot bargain with it, nor can you hurry it with poetry, but you can bring yourself into the sunshine, and the instant you do, warmth is present, light is present, growth is assured, not as wages for your pleading, not as a medal for good behavior, but as qualities inseparable from the sun itself. In like manner, exactly in like manner, God is, life is, love is, intelligence is. If you bring yourself into God awareness, health, supply, harmony, protection are not added from outside. They appear as the natural outshining of that awareness. You do not get them, they get you. Now please hear this with both ears, because the mind loves extremes. I am not saying ignore your needs. Oh, not at all, not at all. Wash your children, pay the rent, see the doctor when you ought to see the doctor, eat your dinner and be grateful. But do not pray for dinner, do not pray for rent, do not pray for the doctor to say a certain sentence. Seek me only. Turn from the picture, however insistent, to the presence. If the picture is sickness and you start praying about the sickness, naming it, measuring it, reciting its lineage, you have crowned the picture. If the picture is lack and you begin to count coins in prayer, heaven help you, you will multiply pennies by concentration. Prayer is not a microscope for problems. Prayer is the opening of the inward eye to presence. And when that eye opens, the picture is reduced to what it always was, a passing wave, and the sky asserts itself. Someone objects, but if I do not ask, how will I receive? You will receive by being where receiving is the nature of being. The beggar's bowl is not what gathers the coin, the giver's heart is. Sit at the giver's heart. Father, reveal thyself. Notice how that one sentence turns you. You are no longer building a little model of tomorrow and then holding it up to God, saying, bless this and bless it in blue, not red. You are saying, be thou my day, and then you watch how day arises. This is not irresponsibility. It is the highest responsibility, to keep yourself so near the source that the qualities of the source have a clean line through which to express. What then of those moments when the need shouts? The bill is due at 4. The pain is loud. The child is crying. The sea is throwing waves at your knees. I do not ask you to pretend these do not call. I ask you to notice what happens when you answer them with petition. Your attention knits itself to the problem picture. You begin to feel the problem's texture and weight, and in your earnestness, you consecrate it. You pray with it in your lap. You take it to lunch. You sleep with it under your pillow. Dear ones, that is worship. And of course you become exhausted because worship is powerful and your altar was filled with a false god. Lift your eyes, even in the cry. Speak, Lord. 2 breaths, a turning. If the click is 1 feather's weight of assurance, that is enough to change the next step. And you will be surprised how often right activity appears out of that thin ray. 1 phone call, not 10. 1 sentence, not a page. Wait an hour, not charge the door. Or move now, not imagine for 3 days. The activity that follows realization is precise. It wastes nothing and it demonstrates in proportion to the awareness that sent it. You see now why I say the things take their rightful place. They are not prizes for piety. They are the shadows cast when the light is present. Health is the way life looks when it is felt. Supply is the way love provides for its own appearing. Harmony is the way intelligence arranges without outline. And protection is the way omnipresence is recognized. Where God is, I am, and where I am, God is. There is no outside to be afraid of, no foreign field to cross. If you come under the sun, you cannot say, grant me light, but not shadow, warmth, but no tan. The package is the nature of the source. Likewise, in realization, you do not cherry-pick results. You live in God, and life becomes God's self-expression as the affairs of your day. But will this not make me careless with people? Oh, not at all. Not at all. You will be more tender. When you stop using God to get a result, you stop using people too. The clerk is no longer an obstacle to your speed. The patient is no longer a project. The family is no longer a stage for your nice ideas of spirituality. Everyone becomes a presence within presence, and you discover that your very realization blesses them, without speech, without program. We will speak more of that another time. For now, let us be content to say, whatever you know in secret is shouted from the housetops. Your prayer of realization is never private in its effect. It is universal in its radiance. Let me offer a small test you can carry. For the next 7 days, every time you catch the old tongue starting, "God, please, stop and smile." You have just seen the beggar at the door of the king's house. Take him by the elbow, lead him in, and say only, "Father, reveal thyself." Then be still for 1 breath or 3. Do not decorate that stillness with hopes. Do not outline. Do not rehearse the problem. Listen. If there is a stirring, obey. If there is not, do the next simple thing without fuss, and hold yourself available for the inner word. If during the day you notice warmth, gratitude, a tiny assurance that seems to come from nowhere, name it, presence. Thank you. If, on the other hand, the mind returns with loud bulletins, do not argue. Thank you, not now. Turn again, seek me only. And let no one leave this room thinking, this is too mystical for my rent, too airy for my bones. The sun is very practical. It grows tomatoes, it melts ice, it dries the laundry. Do not diminish God with your utilitarian mind. Realization is the most practical act in the universe because it fetches the universe to bear on the point where you stand. But thinking will not make this so. Belief will not bully it into being. Contact alone, the simple, humble, repeated turning until the click of assurance opens the way. Then the action will be shown to you and supply will meet you, not as a windfall to a clever petitioner, but as the rightness of God being God where you are. So let us retire from the business of managing God. Let us lay down the job we were never hired for. Let us become poor in requests and rich in realization. The prayer now becomes the realization that where God is, I am. The prayer now becomes, "Speak, Lord," and a listening life. Seek me only. Seek me only, and watch how the warmth comes, how the light clarifies, how the growth appears. No drum roll, no bargain, no outline, just the sun being sun, and you in it. If I had a tumbler here, and I wish I did, the kind you drink water from, I would hold it up and say, let's be simple. Where does the outside of this tumbler leave off, and where does the inside begin? Now, do you see, you can point all day with your finger, and you can take a ruler to it if you want to be very earnest about your spirituality, and still you will not be able to show me a fence between outside and inside. There is but glass. There is but glass. The notion of outside and inside is language for function. This side holds the water. That side meets the hand. But the reality is a single substance, a single being. Are there 2 tumblers? No, no, there is 1 tumbler. We speak of 2 sides only by convenience, not by ontology. Bring that little lesson from the kitchen into the sanctuary and see what it says of God and man. Is there an outside God and an inside man? Is there an invisible God somewhere and a visible you somewhere else negotiating through the postman of prayer? Or is there, in truth, 1 being, 1 substance, 1 life appearing as invisible selfhood and visible form, 2 in function, not 2 in reality? There is but glass. God is our invisible selfhood, the life, the love, the intelligence that we cannot put our hands on, and we are this very body, this mind, this name on the envelope. the externalization of that same one being. Invisible and visible, source and expression, cause and form. We are only two in function. The mind says, "Now, wait a minute." And it is right to pause because we are walking out beyond the rail where most religion stops to take photographs. The common habit is to mentally place God somewhere else. Up there, over there, back there, and then thought must travel. Thought must build a little bridge with words and hopes, and maybe a vow for good behavior tossed in as a toll. But if there is only glass, if there is only God being, where, pray tell, would you send your thought? You cannot send thought to what already is you. The distance collapses. Contact is not a heroic journey. It is the humility to admit there was nowhere to go. You do not fetch the sunbeam into the room. You lift the blind that hid it. That is oneness made practical. Immediately I must assure you of something so that we do not go home with our hats on the wrong heads. This is not the deification of the personal ego. Oh, not at all. Not at all. We are not crowning Joe or Mary as a little god to strut about with private powers. The personal sense, the I who thinks of itself as a separate owner and doer, is precisely what must relax, must die daily, so that the one selfhood may be recognized as the only life present. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. Do you hear the paradox? It is not the shell crowing. It is the life within the shell announcing itself. When we speak of oneness, we are not inflating a balloon called me. We are letting the air out of that balloon so that the room can be filled with reality. Someone asks, but if God and man are one, why do I feel separate? Because we have worshipped the distinction of functions as if they were differences of being. We have treated the inside/outside of the tumbler as two competing objects and then tried to throw prayers across the imaginary fence. The habit is old. It was taught to us with good intentions, but an old habit does not make a true one. The moment you begin, even experimentally, to recognize God is the life of me, the mind of me, the breath of me, this visible me is the way God is showing, the strain begins to ease. The distance you were trying to cross by cleverness reveals itself to have been a dream distance. Then the click comes, sometimes as warmth, sometimes as an unreasoned assurance, sometimes as a simple quiet, and you realize, oh, here, already here, not a planet away, not a result away, here. Let us tease this out in the smallest acts. You are at the sink washing a dish. Who is living that life? If you answer with the old training, you will say, I am washing this dish and I hope God is pleased. Do you see the two? That is the old fence. Try this. Father, reveal thyself as this washing, not to be poetic, to be exact. You are not summoning a God to come watch. You are recognizing that the invisible life you call God is the very life moving this hand, seeing through these eyes, caring for this home. At once, the dish is washed differently, not necessarily slower or faster. This is not a contest. It is washed as an act of oneness, and something in you acknowledges the truth, and there is rest inside the motion. This is not philosophy. This is tumbler-realized living. Consider the problem that looks out there, the boss, the news, the bank account, the diagnosis. Ask the tumbler question, where does your consciousness leave off and where does the issue begin? If you think in terms of two, you will strategize and plead and push for change. If you quietly admit oneness, there is but glass. There is but God being God right here where this picture is parading. Your attention returns within to the invisible selfhood, and you listen. The contact made there does not manipulate an exterior. It reveals the unreality of separation, and in that revelation the picture behaves. Sometimes it dissolves, sometimes it reorganizes, sometimes it no longer has power to frighten. But the governance changes because the government is recognized. God in the midst of me is mighty, in the midst, not across the street. This is why absent treatment, as some of you have called it, works without wires. You can be in one city and your loved one in another, and realization reaches them before the telephone could ring. Why? Because there is no them outside the one being. You are not sending vibrations across a distance. You are standing still in oneness until the fact of one's selfhood announces itself in the form that looks like help over there. And lest you grow superstitious, remember, you are not doing it. You are witnessing the isness of God appear as harmony where disharmony pretended to be. What you know in secret, oneness realized, is shouted from the housetops because there is only one rooftop, one house. Now the mind objects again. If there is only God, are we puppets? No, no. Oneness does not erase individuality. It reveals true individuality. We are not mass-produced saints. The tumbler analogy will guide you again. The single glass can be etched, tall, short, plain, ornate, but none of those forms change the substance. In the same way, God appears as infinite forms, each with a function, a fragrance, a voice. Your individuality is the way the one being enjoys this corner of its own infinity. To know oneness is not to merge into grayness. It is to express without fear because the life expressing is not personal possession. Then the gifts are free. Then the service is clean because there is no me to protect or promote. And do you see why, in this light, contact becomes both simple and sure? When we thought of God as far, contact required rhetoric, argument, discipline big enough to lasso a planet. But when you sit with the tumbler in your heart and know there is but glass, the turn within is enough. Attention need not travel. It need only relax its pretense of separateness. In that relaxing, oh, so gently you could miss it if you're in a hurry, the click appears, presence felt, not a thought you manufactured, not a belief you bullied into place, a presence that announces itself because it is being itself right where you are. And that, my dear friends, is why this way is practical. The dishwasher hums. The bus is late. The meeting starts at 9. Oneness does not postpone life until retreat time. It redeems the minutes by filling them with what has been here all along. Let me offer you a practice to confirm this, not as strain, but as a child's test. Several times a day, ask very quietly, in the midst of whatever you are doing, is there really an outside to me right now? Do not answer with logic. Pause. Let the question open a window. Very often you will feel the border soften. It may feel like the room growing wider, or like breath finding its way into a corner behind the heart, or simply like an easing of effort. Name it. There is but glass. In that very instant, whatever problem claimed to be out there loses its throne, and you are back at the only altar that matters, the one being recognizing itself. If at any time fear comes that you are being blasphemous, oh, that old anxiety that you are making too much of yourself, meet it with truth. Say inwardly, I have none of myself, but I have none less than God. That sentence will keep the house in order. It strips the I of its pretensions and seats God as the only self. Then, in safety, you can dare to live boldly, kindly, without hoarding and without groveling. For where would you go to find more than God? And where would you go to be without God? We will, in a few minutes, take up the daily dying that makes this more than a pleasant idea, the letting go of that small claimant called I. But for now, let the tumbler do its work. Hold it in your mind the rest of today. When you catch yourself pushing prayers across an imagined fence, stop and smile. There is no fence. There is only glass. There is only God being God as the life where you are. And in that realization, the sea of thought does not have a hook to catch you, because the inside/outside has collapsed, and presence, felt, not thought, has taken its rightful place as the only prayer and the sure source of demonstration. Seek me only. Where God is, I am. Where I am, God is. One being, one life, two in function, not two in truth. Now we come to the tender place. We have spoken of oneness until the fence is looking rather silly, and yet, if we are honest, something in us still stands at the rail and leans over and shouts. What is it that keeps the mouth moving after the tumbler has done its teaching? It is this little claimant we call I, the personal I, the talker, the measurer, the owner, the worrier, the one who outlines tomorrow and takes credit for yesterday. Let us say it plain, because the sea of thought loves euphemism. The only real barrier to the click of God contact is the claim of a separate I, to be the doer and the possessor. Not sin in the way we were scolded for it, not ignorance in the way we are embarrassed by it. Simply this persistent habit of self-ownership. Once it softens, contact appears as naturally as dawn, not because we earned it, but because nothing is in the way. Now, how does this I operate? Gently watch, and you will see. It begins sentences with my plan, my problem, my fear, my husband's attitude as it affects me, my practice, my portfolio, my spiritual growth. See how quickly the kingdom becomes a small suburb? Then it expands its jurisdiction. My wisdom will fix this. My will must push this. My safety depends on 12 contingencies tied with worry string. My supply will run out if I don't manage everyone else's behavior. Do you see what happens to the tumbler? The one glass becomes a museum of labels. We do not actually possess these things. We claim them and then must carry them, and that is why shoulders ache. Let us take the scalpel of negation and free the nerve. There is no my supply. There is only the one infinite source expressing as the sufficiency of every function where you are. There is no my health. There is life being itself as the balance, repair, and vitality that look like a body behaving. There is no my wisdom. There is intelligence revealing itself, and you find yourself saying the right word, hearing the right word, knowing when to be silent. There is no my safety. There is omnipresence being itself. Where God is, I am, and there is no outside to fear. There is no my success, no my reputation, no my influence. There is God fulfilling God through the forms of this day. We are not being poetic. We are handing the universe back to the only one who can run it. Immediately the mind protests. Am I to become a non-entity, a drifter, a doormat? Oh, not at all. Not at all. This is not self-hatred. It is self-liberation. The personal I is the only beast of burden we are asked to lay down. You will not shrink. You will be relieved. The hands will still cook dinner. The voice will still present at the meeting. The feet will still go to the market and remember the eggs. But the strain is gone because the sense of personal ownership is gone. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. That is not a slogan to embroider. It is a shift of government. The doer is recognized as the presence, and the form, this person you call by your name, is the way it is doing it. Two in function, not two in being. You need a sense of humor to do this, or the mind will try to die in high drama. It will say, very well, I renounce myself, and then immediately check a mirror to see how saintly it looks. Catch it kindly, smile and say, get thee behind me. We are not abolishing pronouns. We are reducing their metaphysical pretensions. We will still use the language of I and my to buy stamps and to arrange appointments. But for a season, I would like you to try a little fast, not of food, but of possession words. For the next 7 days, refrain consciously from voicing my in the sense of private ownership of life. Do not say my problem. Say, if you must refer to it, the problem picture presenting itself. Do not say my fear. Say, a fear is suggesting itself to mind. Do not say my plan. Say, an outline is arising. Let me check it against the presence. Do not say my supply. Say, supply appears where God is recognized. And when you catch yourself mid-sentence, the old tongue racing on, stop and smile. You have just seen the beggar knocking at the king's door. Take him by the elbow and bring him in. Father, reveal thyself. You will be astonished how quickly this little discipline exposes the habits of the personal I. In the first afternoon, if you are like me, you will discover that you have been narrating a private universe all day, and your narration is mostly complaint or bookkeeping. Do not be severe with yourself. Oh, not at all, not at all. Be grateful for the light, because exposure is healing. The very seeing of the habit is the beginning of its end. In each interruption, feel for the click, not by straining. Remember, thinking won't make this so, but by turning from owner to witness. Speak, Lord. One breath, two. The sea of thought will try to pull you back into its weather report. Let it speak without answering. You are listening for another voice, which is not a voice, and when it stirs, even as a feather's weight, you will know. Presence. Here. Already. Someone will ask, but if I stop saying my, won't I neglect legitimate duties? Who will care for my children, my business? Let us answer with order. Duties are not performed by anxiety. They are carried out by love and intelligence, functioning as you. The personal I tries to do God's work with nervous hands. The realized self performs the same acts with clarity and right timing. You will find you become more faithful, not less, when the doer is God recognized. The children are attended with tenderness, untainted by possession. The business is transacted without the gambler's fever. The body is cared for without the theater of hypochondria. Responsibility is not erased, it is clarified. Here is a picture to help. Imagine a violin declaring, "My music, my performance, my applause." It would be comical, wouldn't it? The violin is glorious, but it is instrument, not source. When the musician lifts it, music pours through and the violin fulfills its nature without the anxiety of authorship. This is what dying daily to the personal I feels like. It is not a funeral, it is the end of counterfeiting. Some days the score will be Bach, some days it will be a child's simple tune. The quality will be right because the authorization is right, not mine, thine. Now, there is a reason we call this dying daily. The personal I has 9 lives, and it will present itself in refined forms. It will say, "Very well, I am a spiritual I now. I own realization. Watch for that." The quickest way to puncture that balloon is gratitude. Silent, frequent gratitude that catches no credit. Thank you. Not thank me for remembering to thank you. Just thank you. And as often as you can remember, refrain from broadcasting your inner weather as if it were of universal interest. We do not need a ticker tape of my day. We need the day governed by presence, and the fruit will speak without speech. Whatever you know in secret is shouted from the housetops, so keep the secret clean of self-claim. Some of you will want a more concrete drill, so let us make one. 3 times a day, perhaps upon waking at noon, and before sleep, sit quietly for 2 minutes. Bring to mind any sentence in which you have been inserting my, and gently rewrite it in truth. My anxiety about tomorrow becomes a picture of tomorrow is tempting me. Father, reveal thyself as this very moment. My back becomes this body through which you are living is tired. Be thou its rest. My sales numbers becomes the function called business belongs to the infinite. Fulfill thyself. Then do nothing but listen. Do not decorate with hope or hurry. If a movement is given, obey. If not, let the stillness itself be the act. You are not trying to fix tomorrow. You are dying to the owner who thought it was his to fix. What is the fruit of this? First, the sea of thought loses its rank. It will continue to roll, but it will no longer appoint you admiral. Second, the click appears with less ceremony. In line at the market, you will feel a small warming and know the government is God, and the line will either move or your annoyance will be seen as the BBL it is, and either is freedom. In the conversation where you used to prepare 5 speeches, you will discover words arising you did not draft. In the moment of decision, you will find yourself led to the one necessary call, not the 10 useless ones. Presence governs, and life takes its cues from a deeper order than your outlining could ever produce. And here is a surprise. As the personal I steps down, love steps forward. Not sentiment, not duty in a pious hat, but the love that recognizes itself everywhere because separation has been exposed as fiction. You will be softer with the ones you had placed across the fence. You will be kinder with your own body, which you had treated alternately as a slave and a god. You will laugh more quickly because the comedian who fed on your seriousness has been sent home. The burden lifts. The yoke is easy. And why? Because contact has become simple. You are no longer building a ladder to heaven. You are sitting in the room and letting the blind rise. If in the midst of all this the old voice shouts, "But I must try harder to die," notice the joke. The eye cannot kill itself without a flourish. Smile. Thank you, not now. Turn again. Seek me only. Let the daily dying be gentle and frequent rather than theatrical. 100 light relinquishments in a day are more potent than one grand gesture for the autobiography. Little deaths to ownership, little surrenders of authorship, little refusals to say my when you mean God's. These open the channel. These lift you above the sea of thought into the air that is always clean. So let us consent to this sweet diminishment, the personal I relaxing its grip, so that the true I am may be all. Deny thyself not by bruising, but by recognizing that there was no separate self to defend. Then the click has no barrier. Presence already present is felt. And in that realization the day is governed, the affairs are righted, and the beables of the world begin to lose their glitter. We will speak of those trinkets shortly. For now, let us be content to say, where God is, I am, not as an owner, not as a doer, but as the place where God is, being God. And that, dear ones, is freedom. Now, about those trinkets I promised, the little glittering things that have kept us leaning over the rail of the sea of thought, grabbing at waves as if they were land. A poet once gave me a word for them, and I have loved it ever since, not because it is dignified, but because it is silly. It helps us not take them too seriously. Beeblies, with an extra B, roll it in your mouth and you'll hear the joke you have been living. Beeblies. Sometimes it comes out borbles or bobbles, and that is all right. A beeble is anything to which we attach undue importance, anything we install on the throne and then proceed to serve as if it were a god. Status, money, romance, reputation, the opinion of 2 or 3 people who are not thinking of you at all. Even spiritual success, the size of your practice, the number of your testimonies. When a BBL glitters, the personal I salutes and signs a labor contract. And then we wonder why the shoulders ache. Let us say at once, lest the mind run off into a ditch, that this is not an attack on things. Oh, not at all. Not at all. This does not cancel art or science or homes or good work, or even, as some of you are praying, labor-saving devices, which often seem to multiply our labor. It is not a vow of dullness. We are not anti-beauty or anti-comfort or anti-advancement. We are anti-idolatry, and idolatry is not in the thing. It is in the importance we award it as the source of peace, identity, or security. A painting on the wall can be a window for the soul or a BBBO for the ego. The same house can be a shelter for love or a museum for self. The same sum in a bank can be stewardship or a shrine. The same romance can be companionship or a substitute savior. The surface does not tell you, your attachment does. Why are BBLs so troublesome? Because they give orders to thought. They are the foreman of the sea. The moment a BBL is threatened, thought begins to churn. Strategize, compare, defend, attack, rehearse. Have you noticed? You are peacefully washing the dish when a headline about the market appears in your mind, and immediately the sea is in a storm. Numbers, graphs, someone else's fortune, your imagined future, a timetable, the old arithmetic of fear. Or a stray comment at work scratches your reputation Bible, and behold, 3 hours of inner committee meeting, none of it attended by God. BBLs are like fishing lures. Their whole design is to catch your attention and hook it in the lip. The more you bite, the deeper the hook. The deeper the hook, the rougher the sea. And then you say, I'm too distracted to make contact. But who did the distracting? We hung a BBLE where presence belongs and called it necessary. Now here is the paradox that liberates. The way to have the right use of life's goods is to surrender the craving for them as your security and identity. This is not morality, this is mechanics. Bring yourself into the sunshine and you cannot help but feel its warmth and see its light. Chase the sunbeam with a net and you end up running in circles and tearing your clothes. In the same way, seek me only, seek the realized presence, and the goods of life take their rightful place as the forms by which God is being God in your scene. But seek the goods and they become BBLs. And BBLs always roll off the lap and under the sofa at the worst moment. When the hunger is for God, the forms are fed. When the hunger is for forms, the soul stays hungry. Someone asks, is detachment safe? Will I lose what I need if I stop gripping? No. Gripping is not what holds life together. It is what tires the hand. Detachment does not throw away. Detachment dethrones. It removes false titles, my source, my identity, my safety, from things that cannot bear them, and returns the crown to presence, which never falls off its head. The house is more secure without being a BBL. The friendship is sweeter without being a BBLA. The job is clearer without being a BBLA. Your practice, if you are a practitioner, is more fruitful without being a BBLA. Because now the sea is quieter, and you can hear instruction before you act. Let's make this simple and lived. Take a quick inventory, not penitential, observational. Which BBLs tend to catch you? The applause of a certain someone, the number on a screen, the ring of a phone after you send the message, the mirror at certain hours of the morning, the idea that you must be seen as spiritual. Write 1 or 2 of them on the inside of your eyelid. I speak figuratively. I don't want a queue at the emergency room. And when you feel the hook slide in, use our interruption line. Wait a minute, that's a BBL. I'm not going to worship that. I'm turning within. Say it out loud if you can. Whisper it if you must. But say it because the sea of thought needs to hear who is in charge. What happens when you do? At first, there may be a protest. The BBLE will make a case. This is not idolatry, it will say. This is prudence. This is romance. This is good stewardship. This is your image. You worked so hard on it. Smile. We are not arguing with a trinket. We are reassigning authority. Turn within. Father, reveal thyself here. Then listen. You are not asking God to bless the BBLE or to take it away. You are seeking the presence that shows you whether it belongs on your table or back in the toy box. And very often, more often than you would guess, when the presence is felt, the anxiety evaporates and the object returns to its true size. It may stay, it may go, but the storm subsides because the wind, that is, your attachment, has been calmed. Some of you will do this and then find the BBLE brighter the next morning. That is all right. BBLs love the morning. They are like children who run into your room at dawn to announce their own importance. Keep the practice plain. Wait a minute, that's a BBL. If you forget until after 3 hours of churning and a second cup of coffee, do not scold yourself. That would be another BBLE, my spiritual performance. Just stop where you are and make the turn. We are not counting how fast you remember. We are training attention to know it's right home. Let me correct again, for safety. Detachment does not mean carelessness. You will still pay your bills, show up on time, return calls. You will still decorate the tree or the table if that delights you. You will still write the brief, teach the class, go to the clinic. Detachment means that none of these carriage rides are mistaken for the horse. You will engage fully, even excellently, but without the tremor of self-importance or fear that makes excellence impossible. And you will laugh more often, because when a BBLE rolls under the sofa, you will not lie down and sob. You will fetch a broom or bless its departure. Watch what this does to the sea of thought. Every time you name a BBL and decline to worship it, the waves flatten a degree, the wind loses a knot. You rise, not by climbing, not by thinking harder about God, but by weight released. The balloon of the personal I is letting out another sigh, and with it the air that kept the sea frothy. In that quiet, the click comes, not as a prize for good behavior, but as the truth that is audible when the band stops playing. Presence does not shout over Beebles. It waits, and when you stop jangling the trinkets, you hear the hymn that was sounding before you woke. I would like you to carry the word with you today. Beeble, Beeble. Make it your little bell of detachment. When you feel the tug, news, numbers, nods, nostalgia, ring the bell. Wait a minute, that's a BBL. I'm not going to worship that. I'm turning within. Then do not decorate the turn with thought. Be still enough to feel even the faintest warmth, the slightest ease, and let that be prayer. Seek me only, seek me only. The things that belong will find their ordered place without your gripping. The things that do not belong will lose their disguise and wander off without your chasing. And you, dear one, will discover that the heights are not a mountain you must climb, but the air you breathe when the pockets are emptied of Beebles and the hands are open for God. And now, what happens when the click comes? Not trumpets, not fireworks, a quiet something, a steadiness, a warmth that does not argue with the thermometer. You will notice that even before a single condition has shifted, the compulsion to manage, to hurry, to outline, has let go of your collar. The waves may still be running on the surface. News has not stopped. Invoices have not evaporated. The neighbor still has a trumpet he calls a stereo, but within, something has taken its rightful seat. That presence once felt is its own assurance. It says nothing and it says everything. It is the yes that does not need your signature. Let us be very clear on this. Demonstration is the side effect of God contact, not its goal. We do not go into the silence to get things, to fix things, to make people behave. We go into the silence because God is there, and because the only prayer that means anything is the realization of God's presence. Seek me only. Seek me only. And then, as inevitably as warmth follows sunshine, harmony shows itself in the forms of your day. You cannot ask the sun to shine. You cannot go outside and petition for a tan. But stand in the light and do not be surprised that you glow. In just that way, do not be surprised when the atmosphere of a room shifts, when an obstinate tangle loosens, when a word appears on your tongue that heals more than any speech you could have drafted last night. You did not send it. You did not make it. You did not outline it. It appeared because the government shifted from the mind's management to presence recognized. Someone will say, "Do you mean that if I make contact, my bills are paid, my child is calm, my office is suddenly a monastery?" Oh, not at all. Not at all. Life is still life. People still have birthdays and flat tires, but you will find that the presence you have felt is more reliable than the calendar or the tire gauge. It governs by an order you do not have to keep with a whip. A bill is still a bill, but panic is no longer the atmosphere in which you read it. Instead, an instruction is heard. Make this call, wait on that, release this expense, trust that a forgotten invoice is about to be found. And then the little signs appear, an unexpected check, a client you hadn't thought of in months, an idea that saves an hour and thereby pays for itself. You did not wrestle with the sea. You rose above it and the boat found smoother water. Thinking won't make this so. But the consciousness of God present is the only law of being, and in that law, the figures on a page must take their right places. And in the living with others, because we do not live in monasteries any more than we live on mountaintops, you will notice something you cannot take credit for. A conversation that was heading for a quarrel turns. A room that was jumpy settles. The child in the back seat stops the chant of "Are we there yet?" and falls asleep. The man on the train who had been rehearsing in anger softens and looks out the window as if he has just discovered trees. You did not send a thought to them. Let us be honest. You were too busy not thinking to send anything. This is the mystery and the simplicity of oneness. There is no other to bless at a distance. There is but glass. There is but being. God is our invisible selfhood, and we are its form. When the presence is realized at your center, it is not bottled there. There is no inside and no outside for omnipresence. Recognized where you are, it is, and that is enough. We call this sometimes absent blessing or absent treatment, but even that can mislead and make you feel like a post office. You are not sending, you are recognizing, you are letting the fact be a felt fact. Where God is, I am, and where I am, God is, not a private trove, but an indivisible life that knows no fences. In that awareness, love is not something you aim like a hose at a curb. Love is the nature of being felt being itself. And because it is universal, its effects are universal. Whatever you know in secret is shouted from the housetops. If you are knowing lack and fear in secret, that, too, is broadcast. You have experienced it. So change the station, turn within, make the contact. Let presence be the program, and the airwaves clear. Now, do not make a new BBL out of demonstration. Do not keep peeking to see if the plant has grown because you watered it this morning. That is still outline. That is still mind management. Our responsibility is singular. Return again and again and again to the inner contact. If you lose it at 9, find it at 9:02. If you lose it at noon, find it at 12:05. The sea of thought will keep inviting you back into weather reports and management meetings. Decline the invitation. Father, reveal thyself here. 1 breath. 2. Listen. If the instruction is to act, act. If the instruction is to wait, wait. If there is no instruction but only the warmth, be content. That warmth is the act. That place of stillness is the government. That is the insurance policy. I use that phrase deliberately. The presence of God is the insurance policy, not against accidents as if omnipresence needed a contract to keep itself safe, but the guarantee that life is governed from the level where it cannot go wrong. On the human level, there are always 100 ways to go wrong, and the mind can think of 200. At the level of presence realized, there is one way, and it is the way that is. When that is felt, even before anything looks different, you will find yourself saying, "It is well." And you won't be practicing an affirmation. You will be reporting. I could tell you stories, and you could tell me stories, and they would all come down to this one sentence. When the contact is made, the scene arranges according to God's own economy. I remember sitting in a room that had been all edges for 3 days. Grim faces, clipped tones. No one wanted to be the first to soften. The moment the click came, no speech was needed. Someone laughed, not at anyone, but at the theater of our seriousness. Papers shifted, a phrase was offered that no one had been able to think of, and the whole matter dissolved like a knot in warm water. Another time, a stranger behind a counter leaned in and said, "Please tell me about God." And I had not mentioned the word. He felt what you feel when the sea has gone flat inside and presence is on the field. The drunk man who turns without your sermon and thanks you for praying is not responding to your mind. He is responding to the fact of God realized as the only mind present. If you ask, "How long does it last?" I will answer, "As long as we stay home." Do not make a superstition out of the click. It is not a charm for the day. It is the life that is the day. We can rise above the sea of thought in the morning and be back in the surf by lunch. Then we rise again. This is not failure. This is faithful return. Gradually, the intervals of forgetting shorten and the intervals of remembering lengthen, until the background hum of God's presence becomes the very air you breathe. Then demonstration is not an event. It is the way things are. You will find yourself less surprised by good and less frightened by picture. You will discover that steadiness is not something you muster up. It is the mark of realized being. So let us practice the only responsibility we have. Turn, listen, feel, consent. Seek me only. When the tug of a BB tries to draft you into its war, ring your little bell and return. When the mind suggests that you must think your way through, smile and return. When nothing in the picture warrants peace and yet peace is given, trust it and return. The presence once felt will do more with your day than your thought could do with a year, and you will know without having to tell anyone that you are insured, not by premiums paid, but by presence realized. Where God is, I am. Where I am, God is. And that, dear ones, is the governance of a life. Now, let us be still a few minutes, not to strain, not to get somewhere. We are not going to try to force God into the room. Omnipresence does not need our invitation. We are going to rest from managing and give consent to the fact already true. Let the shoulders drop a fraction. Allow the hands to find a natural place. Lap, knees, no posture of especial virtue. If you are tempted to make a posture into a BBL, smile and sit as a person would who is going nowhere and has time to listen. First, we settle. That means we notice without joining. The sea of thought will still make its motions. Words flicker, old songs, yesterday's headline, the neighbor's trumpet that isn't a trumpet. Breathe if you like, but we are not making breath into a lever. Just notice the motion on the surface, sensations in the foot, an itch on the nose, a sound in the hall. Let them register as you would watch waves from a cliff, present, moving, not dangerous, not yours to row. We are not pushing them away. That is still arguing with the sea. We are recognizing these are waves. I am not the waves. Thought encompasses everything that can be seen, heard, tasted, touched, smelled, and even the remembering and anticipating around those. We are not trying to clean that ocean. We are standing a little above it, right here in our chair, in quiet permission, for it to do what oceans do while we attend to the sky. If you catch yourself in the chase, the old committee meeting starts, the BBL of reputation or money raises its hand. Do not be cross. No, no. Gently say, "Wait a minute, that's a B-bell," and let that be your little bell, or simply, "Not now." Then return to noticing without engagement. Sounds are allowed. Sensations are allowed. Even the thought, "I am not doing this well," is allowed to pass like a gull in the wind. We are not under evaluation. We are under grace. Now we turn. Turning is not a maneuver of the head. It is a consent of the heart. Quietly, inwardly, we take up one phrase, not as a chant, not as magic, not to make something happen, but as a way of facing the one who is already here. Seek me only. Or, if your heart prefers, Father, reveal thyself, or thy grace is sufficient. Just one. Whisper it inside, once or twice, the way you might speak to a dear friend whose presence you trust far more than your words. And then let even the phrase dissolve into listening. This is the turn from managing, reciting, outlining, to attending. One phrase, then silence. If the mind tries to keep the phrase spinning like a coin, set it down. We are not keeping a machine running. We have turned the face. Now we listen. Listening is not a talent for a few. It is our nature when the noise is not being worshipped. Now, in this quiet, we are not thinking about God. We are not composing letters to God. We are resting in the invisible self that is God being itself as us. No images required, no picture on the screen, just a willingness to be very still and to be very honest. I am here to know thee, not to get. I am here to feel the fact, not to decorate the room. If an impulse comes to check the time, smile and return. If a sermon starts in your head, give it back to its author and return. We are listening for nothing that the mind could recognize, because the mind does not author presence. We are listening for the stirring, the subtle click, the ease without cause. It may be as faint as a thread of warmth in the chest, or a loosening under the collar, or simply the vanishing of the hurry. Do not hunt it. Hunting is another sea sport. Consent to be found. If nothing seems to happen, notice whether the nothing has a different texture than the noise. Sometimes the first sign of the click is the absence of the need to find it. Sometimes the sign is that the question you brought into the room has forgotten to assert itself. Sometimes it is a very sweet boredom, and if you are honest, you will realize it is not boredom at all, but rest. The presence is not obligated to perform for you. Oh, not at all. Not at all. We are not putting God on a timer or a stage. We are sitting with what is true, whether felt or not, and by that very consent, we give the feeling permission to appear in its own way and its own hour. Just rest here, a few quiet breaths, not as technique, as courtesy to the body that is attending with you. As you rest, let the false inside and outside grow indistinct, not as a philosophy lesson, as a very simple noticing. The sound on the street is not outside your awareness. The sensation in the knee is not inside your awareness. The thought of your brother is not over there. There is but awareness noticing itself. There is but glass, one life, one being, presenting as sound, as body, as thought, as room, all within the one that is never divided. We are not manufacturing oneness. We are ceasing to believe in two-ness long enough for oneness to be recognized. And in that recognition, you may feel the tenderness that is always there when distance dissolves. Just let it be. If you sense even a whisper of that tenderness, the warmth, the settledness, the smile that rises without a joke, acknowledge it, not with a trumpet, with gratitude. Thank you. That is all. No commentary. Gratitude seals without smothering. Gratitude says, I recognize. If you feel nothing, you can still say, thank you, not as a bribe, but as a statement of faith in what is so, whether or not you have ears for it today. Either way, do not pick up the tools of the mind to explain it or extend it. Presence does not need your aftercare. It needs only your non-interference. We will sit together a minute or two more, just letting the silence have its way. If there are noises, doors, chairs, a city that stubbornly refuses to shut down for our meditation, let them be part of the hymn. The garbage men have their holy work. Let them be sanctified by your lack of resistance. We are not sending thoughts to fix the city. We are not instructing God about acoustics. We are remembering that where God is, I am, and where I am, God is. And that means there is no edge to this awareness, and no interruption to its government. Let the sea do what seas do. We are attending the sky. Now, to seal this, we do not clutch at it. We do not make a charm out of the click. We simply let the realized presence, faint or strong, named or nameless, be the prayer that goes with us back to the desk, the kitchen, the street. The prayer is not "give me." The prayer is "you are." The prayer is the felt fact walking into the next room. In a word, it is consent. Consent to be governed from the level where nothing can go wrong. Consent to be used without strain. Consent to let love be what it already is, without your directing it like a traffic officer. Before you move, pause just long enough to say inside, "I go with what has me," not "I am taking God with me," as if you could pocket omnipresence. Rather, "I am being carried by what already is." That is sealing. When you rise and the BBLs resume their tactics, news, numbers, nods, use what we used in the settling. Ring the bell. Wait a minute, that's a BBL. And then, before you answer the email or open the envelope, give 1 second to the phrase that turns you. "Seek me only." Or, "Father, reveal thyself." Then listen. If there is instruction, take it. If there is only warmth, that is instruction. Let that warmth be the intelligence of your next step. In this way, meditation does not end with the chair. It becomes the atmosphere of the day. You do not go in and out of prayer like a room. You discover the house has no walls. Now, a word of reassurance, because the mind will try to grade you the moment we say Amen. If today you felt nothing at all, if the sea seemed louder in the silence, if the only thing you noticed was how busy you are, that is not failure. That is finding out where you are starting. That is useful. We are not spiritual athletes. We are lovers learning to recognize a familiar presence. Return tonight. Return tomorrow morning. Never start the day or finish it without a few minutes of this inward listening. Do not measure. Do not peek to see if the plant has grown because you watered it once. This is not a project. This is a relationship, and it will ripen as sincerity and persistence replace curiosity and self-judgment. Some days you will sit and the click will arrive before you have even found your chair properly. Some days you will sit and the click will arrive as you are washing the cup afterward. Some days it will arrive when you have given up looking, and you will laugh because you will recognize that giving up looking was the doorway all along. On other days, the simple practice of not worshiping the BBLEs will be your whole meditation, and that will be holy enough. The difference in your life will not be in the number of times you can report a sensation, but in the background hum of trust that comes from regular return. Over time, the intervals of forgetting will shorten, and the intervals of remembering will lengthen, and you will discover that the sea is still a sea, but you are not always in it up to the chin. You are more and more on the heights. So, dear ones, let us close this little stillness with a final inward bow, not to me, not to a doctrine, but to the presence that is our life. Silently, thank you. And then we go about our business with this one responsibility kept clear: turn, listen, feel, consent. Meditation is not thinking about God. Meditation is the inward listening that lets the click of presence be realized. Seek me only, seek me only. And as you do, you will find that the prayer you are taking with you is not words, but a realized fact. Where God is, I am. Where I am, God is. That is enough. That is governance. That is peace.